Hi friends. So what do you do when New Year's Eve comes around? Do you party? Do you have a small gathering with friends? Do you go to a gigantic party? Do you hang out with your non-human friends like this guy? Do you do what I do, which is sort of have a quiet, these days I have a quiet time around midnight, and I think about all the things that we could, the things that I hope for the world, and for people who like me, people who don't like me, for family, for non-human animals, and I mean people going vegan. It's something that I tend to do every New Year's Eve and throughout the year too. Have positive thoughts for the world, for Palestinians, for those that are affected by US imperialism, which is a lot of countries, a lot of people, a lot of deaths in relation to that. So I go through a list of different things, and also I try and set my motivation so that any anger that I feel, I try to turn that into something positive, because otherwise, anger and resentment and all of that, it just eats you up. And that saying, I think it's resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for somebody else to die. Or is that, sorry, I've got a little cat rubbing against the tripod here. Is it resentment or revenge? Anyway, so this is the thing. Times are very testing. And I'm a white person, so they're certainly not as testing as if I was a black person or a Palestinian or somebody in Iraq who's being badly affected by US imperialism and all of that. But all of us in one way or another are being affected. Indigenous people all over the world have been trampled on for a very long time. And of course, non-human animals. Since humans have appeared on the planet, they've been persecuted, oppressed, used as property, used as food, clothing, entertainment, and of course, we all sort of talk about wanting peace, don't we? In the every Christmas, every holiday season, and various religions and various justice groups, we talk about peace, and yet a lot of it really is just. It's just words, really, because not only are we not vegan, most of us, and we're participating in tremendous violence every day, 3 times a day when we eat food, and they're animal products, and they used to be sentient animals, and we don't even need these animal products to survive. So we're participating in that sort of tremendous violence, and then we have, if we're not anti-war and anti-imperialist and pushing back against that, then we can't say that we're for peace, really, because if we're abandoning a lot of people on the planet that are being affected by Western imperialism, then what kind of social justice activists are we? What kind of peace activists are we? There's no point against complaining about the treatment of asylum seekers if we're not going to be against the actual causes of why these asylum seekers are fleeing their countries. Something that's incredibly common now. People seem to be, I don't know if it's almost intentional. They don't want to even talk about the causes of these asylum seekers that are streaming into countries now. In Australia, it's mostly people from Afghanistan, and of course we've been assisting U.S. empire in that country. Australia has for almost 20 years now. It's insane. So if we're really against, if we're really sort of so-called anti-racist, if we're really for, if we're really against the appalling treatment of asylum seekers in detention in Australia and the way they're treated in the US and so forth, then we really must be anti-war and anti-imperialist. And I invite you to check out the Empire Files. That's theempirefiles.tv, or the Grey Zone, the GRAYZONE.com, and Media Roots Radio, and there's a number of different Mint Press News. There's a number of different independent news sources where you can find out about what our governments are involved in, the tremendous violence, and then we need to push against that imperialism, and we need to push governments from the left and that includes those that think they're left, like, say, for example, the Green Party in Australia, who are as imperialist as the rest of the other parties. So anyway, I'm zigzagging all over the place, but when I think about the new year, and it's 2020, and I often think, well, let's have 2020 vision about US imperialism and start to push against that, and let's hope that people in the world get 2020 vision about what the US is really doing, not what they say they're doing, but what they're really doing. And the only way they can find that out is not through mainstream media, but through independent media. So we need to share independent news, the really good independent news, not I'm not talking about conspiracy people like Alex Jones and that sort of thing. I'm talking about real quality independent news, like the Grey Zone, the EmpireFiles.tv, and that sort of thing. Here he is again. That's Nandi. He's a little lovelord. He's so sweet. He's such a loving little being. Anyway, so this is what we need to do. We have to assist independent journalists with the spreading of their incredible journalism. Otherwise, what's the point in them doing it if we're not going to assist them in spreading that? And we also need to be vegan, and that's and people might think, why do you mention veganism when you're talking about anti-war and anti-imperialism? Because they're all related. All the forms of discrimination are related and cause violence. Where you have one form, like speciesism, you'll have all forms. That's racism, sexism, heterosexism, and so classism, and so forth. So if we're going to pretend that the oppression of 99.99% of the planet's population who are non-human, the exploitation of them, eating them, wearing them, and using them, if we're going to pretend that, torturing and killing 1 trillion plus land and aquatic animals every year for completely reasons is not relevant to the domination and oppression of vulnerable groups all over the world, and that where it's a white supremacist imperialism. If we're not going to see the connection there, that one is white supremacy and the other one is human supremacy, then we're really, really missing the bigger picture. Because it's all related and it all causes violence, and where you have one, you'll have all kinds. So we need to start making the connection and stop ignoring the other inconvenient truth, which is, by the way, causing tremendous devastation on the planet. It's one of the greatest drivers of the climate crisis, animal agriculture. I'll show you those memes again. So, if we think that it's not relevant what we're doing every single day to non-human animals, and how that's not only affecting non-human animals, obviously, but it's also destroying the planet, which means that it's affecting all sorts of people in Bangladesh and all over the world, and now in the West, with Australia bursting into flames and animals caught in paddocks. There's thousands of animals have been burnt alive. They've been trapped in paddocks, and they wouldn't be there if we were vegan. And so we're actually using these animals, and the use of these animals is creating tremendous greenhouse gas emissions and causing land shortages and water shortages, and the drought and everything. And then these animals end up, if they're not killed for our plates, they're burnt alive in paddocks, because Australia's bursting into flames. Literally thousands of cows and other animals have been burnt alive in these paddocks. Can you imagine that? And these animals don't suffer any less than the thousands of koalas who have been burnt alive in these Australian fires that are directly a result of the climate emergency. So it's all related. Our consumption of animal products is related to Australia bursting into flames, and it literally is all over the place. Check out my videos from a couple of days ago, where it's called Everything is Burning, and this is the date today is the 1st of January 2020. So check that out. And so if we're wringing our hands about the climate crisis and we're still eating animal products, then what on earth are we doing? We really, really have to start taking responsibility. I mean, if we're not going to do it now, when everything is so dire, when are we going to do it? If we want everything to be destroyed, if we want to participate in tremendous carnage, which is animal agriculture and everything else, if we don't care about the people that are being killed or the people that are dying from droughts and floods and tsunamis and all of that. Well, I don't know about tsunamis in relation to climate change, probably. But if we care about these people that are going underwater in these various, like Bangladesh and all these other islands, and if we care about the ecocide of the planet, and we're going to go where we're in the front lines of the sixth mass extinction. If we care about all these things, then we must go vegan. Even if you are completely selfish and you don't care about all the trillions of animals being killed and tortured every year, at least, you should consider that we are on the front lines of the sixth mass extinction. So we're really, really going to have to get a grip. We're really, really going to have to start taking personal responsibility. And because personal responsibility is what is required now, because governments are not going to do anything. So anyway, that's just my brief thoughts about this at the present time. I enjoy the fact that I'm getting older, and it's much easier now to sort of sort of not get so like I get angry about things, but I also tend to avoid. I tend to sort of put that into action, because otherwise anger can just eat you alive, and it doesn't really benefit anybody. So it doesn't benefit anybody at all. It just weakens us, and in the end, it becomes something that is very unfortunate. So let's try and remain proactive and do what we can to bring peace on this planet. Do what we can, like become vegan and encourage others to do so. Encourage people to get involved in the anti-war movement, because there really isn't one, barely. And that's absolutely outrageous, because what does that say about us? That we don't care about the tremendous violence that we're causing in these various countries, and that we're destroying countries, literally by the dozens at this point. If we don't care about anti-war issues and we don't care about U.S. imperialism, then what are we? Have we got race? Is it from a racist position underneath it all? Is it some white supremacist thing, like I don't care because they're Iraqis, I don't care because they live in Afghanistan, I don't care because they're Bolivian, I don't care because they're Iranian? But then suddenly if something happens in a Western country, we're wringing our hands and freaking out and going, that's outrageous. If some sort of isolated incident happens which involves somebody who calls themselves Muslim, but who isn't actually practicing Islam. I mean, like, what are we doing? This selective outrage. We've got to stop that. We've got to actually feel outrage for every single thing that's happening on the planet that is persecuting the vulnerable. And that starts with rejecting U.S. imperialism and pushing against that. Anyway, maybe in 2021, when Trump will be in office again, I think this is what's going to happen, because I don't think they're going to let Bernie Sanders get anywhere near the nomination, even though they say that he is the most popular now. I think that the Democrats have sort of shot themselves in the face with all this Russiagate stuff, and now the Ukraine stuff, when they could have gotten Trump on, the genocide in Yemen, or giving nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's so many things without congressional approval. There's so many things they could have gotten him on, but no, they choose that. And in the end, the Democrats would rather have Trump in office than have a progressive anywhere near the office of the President of the United States. But in 2021, come join me again, and we can sort of have good motivation and good thoughts for how we can keep this momentum going to end U.S. imperialism, and also to become vegan, how to spread veganism. So thanks so much for watching. My name is Trish Roberts. Please click the like button if you like the content. Please hit the notifications bell, otherwise you won't receive notifications after you subscribed. And thanks. I hope you have. May 2020 be everything that you hope it to be. May everything that is beneficial to others be a wish fulfilled. So thanks so much for watching. Till next time. Bye for now.